Welcome to the Fun Time program. I'm your host, Vivica Volt, and this is my lovely co-host,
John Andrew Fredrickson.
And today we are joined by two lovely guests. We have via Zoom, Kateri and Meghin from the Yang Gang Book Club. Welcome, ladies.
Hello. Hello. Thanks for having us. This is really exciting.
We are so excited to have you guys on the show today. We have been big Yang Gangers for a little while now. Me a little bit longer than you.
Yeah, I am a recently converted Yang Ganger, actually.
Okay. We got another one on the team over here.
Never too late.
Yeah, honestly, I really appreciated a lot of things about Andrew Yang's campaign in the presidential election, but I didn't think a lot of his ideas were really going to be able to translate to a national scale right like at that moment. But I did really appreciate a lot of the ideas that he had. So I'm extra excited that he's now deciding to run for mayor of our lovely city of New York, because I think that his ideas will be fantastic and perfectly implemented on a citywide scale. And honestly, I want him to run for governor because I kind of am ready to replace Cuomo, but
We'll start with mayor.
That's
a good start. You guys excited about the mayoral run that Andrew is hopefully about to announce next week?
Yeah, we're waiting for it. I mean, it's like there's that leaked video.
Right.
We're like hoping that comes out soon. Yeah, it's pretty exciting. We didn't get to be the Yang Gang Book Club during his run. We started right after the run. So even though we don't live in New York City, it is exciting to like have a potential to see the policies that we love so much in some form be utilized.
Mm-hmm.
So, but also just from our perspective, we'd love to just be involved with that because so much of being a part of the Yang Gang, I think, is also just the energy of the community. And it's really fun to be in the Yang Gang. We're about adding fun to the Yang Gang, being a book club. So.
I love that. It's so interesting. We just interviewed Lacey Delane. Excuse me. She was the advanced team lead in Georgia during the campaign. And after, Andrew dropped out of the race and she talked about how, kind of everybody who was a part of the campaign was kind of feeling low. Like, we'd spent all this energy. We were so excited. And then, it was like we didn't have anywhere to pour that energy after Yang dropped out. And then, of course, Yang transitioned into creating his new organization called Humanity Forward, where it's all about taking those ideas and trying to find other ways to promote them outside of just him as an individual candidate, which is so exciting. But what was cool is Yang at that time started a podcast called Yang Speaks. Right around the same time, Lacey started her podcast with her friend Sonia called Rethinking Humanity. And you guys, right around the same time, started the Yang Gang Book Club. Tell us about that. What was that like going from being involved in the campaign, being excited about Andrew as a candidate, but then being even more excited about the bigger ideas going forward, and how you then decided to translate, that excitement into your own project, this Yang Gang Book Club, which has been so fun to watch materialize over the past few months.
Kateri, I think it's your turn to tell the story.
Oh yeah.
But I did want to say real quick, love Lacey. Absolutely adore Lacey and Sonia.
So
I love their podcast.
Yes, they're phenomenal. Yeah. We're big fans.
You're amazing.
Yes, we had the honor to go on her podcast once before and just nerded out talking about books, which was amazing.
Love it.
Which, by the way, the podcast, it's a philosophy podcast, but they go into a book, which is I think To Have or To Be by Eric Fromm. So we're down with that.
Love it.
So we take turns telling the story, so it's my turn.
Love it. We do the same thing.
That's good. It's very democratic. So we were both Yang Gang, completely individually of each other, and joined Yang Gang Twitter. We have a really similar story, Meghin and I. And so we both kind of joined Yang Gang Twitter at some point in 2019, and we're super down for the cause and got really politically involved for the first time, campaigning for him, phone banking, canvassing, doing all this stuff that was not something we'd ever done before for another political candidate. And then, of course, we're very crushed when, he dropped out. And then also kind of independently of each other had a similar idea to start a book club. And so I had tweeted, well, Megan's like way better about being on Twitter. I am like totally like, we're both like observers, but she actually also participates. And I try to be good about that. So anyway, I didn't like necessarily have any following whatsoever. I just literally was retweeting and trending stuff. So I had tweeted, because I had this idea like the day after he dropped out, of doing a book club with this community to like, at the very least, keep us together, keep us, you know, engaging in these topics. So I tweeted about we should start a book club, and it actually got picked up. Like people actually retweeted it. And so I was like, oh, it must be a good idea. And someone who saw it happened to know Meghin and know that she was in a group with some other people in the community who were thinking of starting a book club. So then we get connected, and I end up in this chat with Meghin. And I noticed that like at that point, the chat is the book club.
Okay.
And I was like, well, guys, I don't mean to like, you know, stir things up a little bit too much, but like my idea was like, no, we should like Oprah's book club.
Right.
If I actually said that, but I think it's something along those lines. Yeah. Okay.
We're thinking Oprah. We're thinking Reese Witherspoon. We're thinking you get a book, you get a book, you get a book.
I love it. Look under your seats. You get a book.
So that level of enthusiasm.
Love it.
And so it was Meghin that responded, you know, especially enthusiastically. And so we kind of just all of a sudden, like we kind of overtook the chat, and we realized pretty quickly, like this was something that, you know, she and I were really, really invested in. And we both had like very similar ideas. So, and then the crazy thing is that like that tweet that I did was actually a writer from Elle magazine saw it. I have no idea how, still to this day. And so like she did a story on our book club.
We saw that. We'll have to put that on the screen. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is it's so cool. It's like such a great little time capsule of, you know, the early days of this whole project.
Was that your first time in Elle magazine?
Yeah. Definitely my first time in Elle magazine. And so, Evelyn Yang saw it, Andrew Yang's wife saw it and tweeted about it saying, oh, this is so cool. And, you know, like she followed us. We actually like slid into her DMs, like, thank you.
Yes.
And she responded, which was really sweet. And then Andrew tweeted about us and followed us. And then it kind of, I guess at that point, it's like the rest is history, you know, and we read a book every month. We're like kind of like a normal book club, but we are online, of course. And I guess the other huge element is COVID happened right after.
Right.
So there was a good little period there where we really became this awesome space. We're always an awesome space. Right. But, you know, there was a good little period where it was like we were new and it was a cool new thing. And a lot of people did tell us like, hey, this was really a positive thing for me at a really dark time, that we could just kind of read books and have a safe space and get to know each other on that level. So yeah,
that's really awesome.
And yeah, we haven't like missed a month either. So we've been, you know, this is now January, and yeah, so it's been really fun.
That's really great. How do you guys pick out your books? What leads you to a book? How far in advance do you pick them out? I have so many questions.
What's your process like?
Yeah, so sometimes our books are inspired by previous books that we've read. For example, this month we're reading Blueprint for Revolution, which we're super excited about. And the reason we were so excited,
we're also reading it.
Yes.
Yeah.
The reason we got
How do you pronounce his name?
I thought it was Serja Popovic.
That's what I've been saying.
Yeah.
Serja, if you're watching this, I'm so sorry if I messed it up. But this book, the reason we got so excited about it is because we read This Is an Uprising last year by Mark and Paul Engler, which is a phenomenal book, also kind of a manual for nonviolent revolution. And they have a whole chapter on Otpor, which is what Serja found.
Right.
So that's like one of those books that if you ask me what's like one book you wish you could like make people read, This Is an Uprising is very high up there, along with like War on Normal People and Humankind. But it's a really, really good book. And so it kind of inspired this book. I think our goal is usually to pick them out way ahead of time.
Yeah.
but we end up getting so excited. And so we usually pick them like the month before.
Okay.
And I think that's mostly so we kind of don't put ourselves in a box.
That's fair.
You know, if something exciting comes up or we see that there's like a theme, like the Yang Gang is like looking for, you know, what do we do about this? Or this is what people are excited about on Twitter or current events. Yeah. So we'll just say, okay, then let's try this.
Right.
I will say Kateri does a lot of the research on like finding the books and picking them out, and then I always okay it because, like she said, we do think like very similarly. So usually if I read the description, I'm immediately like, yeah, this is perfect. And so, yeah, that's usually how we pick them out. We do have themes that we try to keep to. So that kind of guides us. And then we do mostly pick nonfiction, but we have done fiction in the past.
Nice. Do you, I noticed you guys do a great job of also reaching out to the authors and getting interviews with the authors when possible. Is that something that you try to do before you pick the books to see if the author is even interested? Or is it something that is just kind of like, if it works out, it works out?
Yeah, we've been very lucky. It was very much starting out as just like, we still felt like, even though we had big goals, like, you know, we're just a little book club. What happened was, and I know you guys will be interested in this, what happened was June 2020, we decided we were going to, with our themes, we were going to do a UBI themed month. We hadn't yet done that. Like we read Made by Stephanie Land in March, which is a book about a memoir about a woman, a single mother living in poverty on welfare. But it's like, we wanted to read like something, a nonfiction book that really gets deep into the issue. So Scott Santens, we had actually, who is a huge UBI advocate.
We're big fans.
I know that you talked about
we know all about it.
And we really are trying to get him on the show. So if you have an in.
Hey, Scott, what's up?
Yeah, Scott, where you at, Scott?
Come through.
Where you at, Scott?
Yeah. He'll be here. He'll do that. Yeah. He's such a nice guy. Yeah. So, I mean, literally the story is a testament to that. He had, I forget I think we reached out to him first, but he had said like, hey, I think this is a really cool thing that you're doing. He was really nice about it. So we had kind of interacted with him in the beginning. So we went and reached out to him and said, hey, like we want to do this UBI month. We are not experts. You are. Could you like essentially like kind of do a little bit of a takeover? Like, could you pick what we read and stuff like that?
Nice.
And he was totally down. And so what the cool, like literally one of the highlights of the entire 2020 was him picking Tyranny of Kindness. I actually do have it here. It's just stuck on a bunch of other books. Story of my life. But Tyranny of Kindness, Dismantling the Welfare System to End Poverty in America by Teresa Finiciello. And this was actually published the year Meghin and I were born.
Oh, wow.
We won't ask.
So this is apparently like one of the main texts that got him into UBI.
Wow.
And it's interesting because it's not a UBI book. Like it is very much what it says it is. Like this was written by a welfare advocate who was really fighting in like, I think the 70s and 80s for welfare rights. And she had been on welfare herself. So anyway, so he recommends this book. So we read this book and it's not even fully a UBI book. She does go into it at the end. And then he reaches out to us like, oh, you know, I'm kind of talking to Teresa. She'd kind of like to come on.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like,
if you don't mind if we do.
I love
get
that
in. Yeah.
So you guys did an interview with her. We
Yeah.
haven't seen that yet. We're going to have to check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool because not only was it like her first public appearance in like decades, it was also like the first time that she and Scott were meeting.
Oh,
Wow.
And so we kind of got to see them have kind of their first like in-person-ish like conversation together that
Oh my
wasn't
God.
email. And it was so cool. It was really cool because I feel like a lot of times with the UBI movement, we talk about all the men that are championing it.
Right.
But there are so many women who
Yeah.
behind the scenes have just been chugging along and doing a lot of heavy lifting.
Yep.
Teresa is definitely one of them. And so is Giselle Huff of the Fund for Humanity, Gerald Huff Fund for Humanity. And
Right.
she also came on our channel too. So that was another highlight of, you know, these two women that have just been working for UBI for like, actual decades.
That is amazing. And it's so amazing to hear, that this goes back so much further than most people realize. That people have been talking about these ideas for a long time in many different forms. And it takes somebody like Andrew to really distill it. And even Scott Santens before Andrew, who did so much of the heavy lifting of, the research and answering all the obvious questions that come up, so that when somebody like Andrew is ready to run, he kind of has a wealth of research ready to go in his back pocket. But it takes people, like the people that you're mentioning, working on these ideas for decades. And even before that, really, and wrestling with them and thinking about them and debating them and evolving those ideas, so that when you do finally think about implementing them, like they've actually been like put through the ringer. You're not just throwing it out there like, this sounds like a good idea,
Right.
Because you're going to get pushback. And it's been amazing to watch somebody like Andrew deal with that. That is so amazing. So yeah, tell us more about the story.
Oh yeah, I mean that was basically like we started. It wasn't our first book. I think this was like maybe our third or fourth. But that was like an early peak.
Yeah.
And from there on out, we were like, well, we gotta. It basically, I think it pushed us to start actually reaching out to authors.
Awesome.
Yeah. And
Awesome.
I will say real quick, my favorite story that she told, that Teresa told, was how she and the lady she worked with actually were the ones who told MLK about UBI.
Wow.
They told him.
Excellent.
Yeah. And that's kind of how he found out about it and how he became an advocate for it himself.
That's right.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was
Literally, like women welfare rights women, like in the 60s. MLK had reached out to them trying to get them to join his coalition.
Right.
And they said, we will only join your coalition if you put UBI in your platform.
Wow. That is amazing. That is phenomenal.
I
And
know.
it's such
Beautiful.
a shame. People talk about how that was right before he got shot. And, that was kind of what he was now advocating for. It was, I don't want to say after the civil rights movement, but, they had done a lot of amazing work already with the civil rights movement. And MLK was now interested in, other ideas to continue, uplifting people and eradicating poverty and enabling more people to live sort of the American dream. And UBI was a big part of that. And then bam, he gets shot. And it's like, where could we be today had that not happened?
Yeah.
It's
A lot of things could have changed if a couple of things that the FBI did in that particular time frame hadn't actually happened.
Yeah.
Fuck
Lord.
you, J. Edgar Hoover.
Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. But wait, we're coming full circle. I don't know if you guys know, but apparently, I don't know if this is a rumor, if this is official yet, but apparently Martin Luther King III is joining Andrew Yang's campaign for mayor. I don't know if he's campaign manager or something like that, but he's coming on board with co-chair, something like that. So yeah, we're excited to have him, be a part of the campaign here in New York, and hopefully, I'd love to get him on the show. That would be fun. Is he from Georgia? Where is he from? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not positive either, so I don't want to say. I think
I don't want to say the wrong thing.
Yeah, but that's a cool
yeah,
story.
A question for Google.
Yes.
Yeah, like it is amazing that this is like seems like it's UBI's moment. Like everything is really pointing towards like this is the moment. And even just seeing like people on CNN, which had been during Andrew Yang's campaign, had been one of the media sources, I think, that they weren't the worst, but they hadn't been the best either.
Right.
Towards
there was
Andrew
the whole
Yang's
Yang
policies.
blackout. A lot of the media just didn't cover him. They didn't treat him as a serious candidate. They didn't think that, they thought that he was just there to, get his name out there.
Right.
It was just the other day that like I just saw one of the pundits being like, so, UBI, like,
Right.
Yeah.
not Andrew Yang was on. It was like her own segment. And so,
The conversation's out there.
We'll
I mean,
see.
you have Congress people calling for it now. Who's really been pushing it lately? The squad.
Ilhan Omar.
Yeah, Ilhan Omar from Minnesota.
Ilhan Omar is like, so I'm just going to write up these articles. Y'all going to pass this shit. We're going to get people some UBI, get it together.
Yeah. And I don't think that Biden is necessarily ready for it, unfortunately. But the thing is, it's being pushed as an idea that is now mainstream and is now understood by the populace in a way that, how are we going to pay for this? All of a sudden a pandemic happens and we realize, well, we kind of have the money. We just got to do it.
Oh, we've had the money. Oh, you mean we can just reduce the military spending by literally just 1 trillion and pay for everything? Oh, cool.
But at least we're going to be seeing over the course of the rest of the pandemic, you know, the Democrats who now have all 3 seats, the presidency in both houses. You know, we're going to be seeing some really good stimulus packages that are going to reinforce in people's heads that putting money in people's hands enables them to stimulate their local economies and enables them to vote in their local economies on what the right places to allocate that money is, rather than having government try to decide where to allocate the money. Yeah. And I think that that's going to just continue to enable us to move forward in getting closer to UBI and hopefully for another Andrew Yang run in, I don't know, 2028. What are we thinking at this point?
Well, I guess it depends on how long he decides to be mayor of New York.
As long as he doesn't fuck it up.
Honestly, after having fucking Giuliani and de Blasio, I really don't think he could fuck this city up.
Well, I don't know if you guys saw that there's been a whole controversy this week. He hasn't even announced yet, and they're already coming for him. There was a whole hit piece in the New York Times yesterday, and it's all drama. But I'm confident that, you know, once he announces, once he gets his platform out there, people are going to be talking about the actual issues, and he's going to rise to the top as a result, because that's what he does best. You know, he's a platform guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you ladies see yourself staying connected with the Yang Gang? Do you see yourself like rebranding to be more focused around his humanity first movement? Or do you see yourself keeping the Yang Gang branding? Like, how do you see yourself with the book club moving with Andrew or possibly moving away from Andrew?
We're like, want to reveal?
Oh, there's been things in the works.
Oh, I love it. Are we getting secret?
I love this.
Secret announcements ahead of the time. Anything you want to share?
We can say that. So our like logo right now was created by a very kind person that I don't think we've heard from since the start of this, and so we're looking to, you know, update some things and kind of like I said at the beginning, though, like we haven't been the Yang Gang book club while he's in a race,
right?
Political race. So that prospect really excites us. But I guess just, you know, our idea of wanting to grow the movement, I think, and it's not just grow the movement, it's like a lot more than that too, but that's been the foundation from the beginning. Kind of hard to do that when your name is Yang Gang.
Right.
And you're trying to reach people for like, Yang the what? Like,
right.
So yeah, we'll see. But, you know, I don't know, I'll let Meghin add to that.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, there is kind of not the need to like, you know, it's hard because Kateri and I were literally just talking about this before we got on. There's that aspect that I like am a big, like, this is what goes through my head all the time, is that like, you know, my mom always told me, don't forget where you came from, right? Like, you never should forget where you came from, like how you got here, right? And obviously the Yang Gang is like very special to us. And that's what got us where we are. Like, that's it's an incredible community.
Yeah.
And I think they forget that sometimes, but the Yang Gang really is an incredible community.
Yeah.
And we never want to like not be like a place for the Yang Gang.
Right.
I think our vision has always been, this is for the Yang Gang, but in order for like the policies that brought us together to succeed, that means we have to kind of open up the gates, I guess. Little frozen moment there, but like open up the gates and like, yes. and like ask other people like, hey, like, what are your thoughts on this? You know, we want to create a space where people can disagree and do so respectfully. And, you know, and kind of like how, for example, in Blueprint for Revolution, he talks about how when you have something that you want to get done, you have to find people, 2 or more groups that maybe don't have anything in common, but they all want to work together for this one goal.
Yes.
Right.
And I think that that's something that we haven't tapped into that we really need to be tapping into.
Yes.
For example, my like dream team would be UBI and the Sunrise Movement, because I think climate change and UBI go hand in hand.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And, you know, if you give people money, they can make more sustainable choices.
Yes.
And so, yeah, so that's just like, for example. And so that's always been our goal since the very beginning. And I think that people don't really realize that we've known what we wanted to do with the book club since the very second we started talking about it.
Wow.
So it's like, it's one of those things where it won't be a surprise to us, but we're trying to make sure that when we do rebrand in the future, that it's not like it's not a surprise to other people. So it'll probably be a very slow process.
Okay.
You get kind of confused because our Twitter name is YG Book Club.
Right.
And so people think we're the rapper YG's book club. And people are like, YG has a book club?
That's amazing.
I mean, honestly, if a rapper started a book club, like, more power to them. Like, that's actually beautiful. I feel like more rappers should start a book club. That would just be...
I would join that book club.
Really?
Who would be the best rapper to start a book club?
Honestly, I think it would really depend on like what rappers like try to like get stuff out there. Cause like sometimes T-Pain be out there saying some like oddly progressive shit. And then other times like you got people like T.I. talk about how he can check for his daughter's hymen. So like let's figure out which rappers we want to prioritize their book clubs.
Those are the types of times where you're like, maybe instead of starting a book club, maybe join one.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Maybe look into jumping into one.
That is awesome. So without, getting you guys to commit to, any announcements here, what are you thinking of in terms of like the overarching theme? So you mentioned how, the UBI and Sunrise Movement and environmental issues are important to you. What other types of types of people would you want to enable with where you're going with this book club?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, we have a lot of different goals. Meghin kind of mentioned that I have kind of picked a lot of the books. It's totally not intentional. I'm just we're both huge readers.
Mm-hmm.
There's like totally book communities, or I should say like reader communities online. Like there's BookTube, which is on YouTube, Bookstagram, and it's been there for a long time. Like I'm in my late 20s. So like when I was in high school, I was watching other high schoolers make whole entire YouTube channel dedicated to reviewing books. And it was mainly YA books.
Wow.
And a lot of them actually kind of made careers and have book deals now.
Yeah.
It's really cool. And also there's Bookstagram.
Book Talk.
So Book Talk, which I'm not on TikTok, but Meghin sends me like the coolest shit.
Yes.
Yeah, book content is like,
I love it.
So one element to that answer is activating readers. I think we're so far, we've mostly just been within the Yang Gang, and luckily there's been some people in the Yang Gang, like I say Yang Gang, but like we really kind of need to say Yang Gang Twitter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the Yang Gang is huge and diverse, and it's just a portion of it. So that's one element of branching out.
Mm-hmm.
And so we found some people in our own community who are readers, and that's been marvelous. So yeah, a potential rebrand would definitely allow us to not sound super political and reach out to a lot of people who put a lot of their time and effort already into reading for fun mostly, reading for enjoyment mostly. If we can help more people who do that, that's a lot of like time, energy, and money that is spent like by a good percentage of our population. If we can even just get them to read a few more books that are more geared towards, like we said, we read a lot of nonfiction about learning about the world and like new economic policies and like how we can solve climate change and stuff like that.
I love that.
And then connecting them, like that is one example of how we could see more people become more activated. I kind of like to think of it like what Yang did for like people like me and Meghin, where we weren't political before and we learned about UBI, and that really like woke us up and got us energized to join a movement. Maybe we could be a part of doing that for other people.
I love
so
that.
that's like one example. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Let's talk a little bit more about Blueprint for Revolution. We were just kind of blown away by how perfect of a book choice this was for this month. And we're wondering how you knew that before January. Did you kind of have a feeling that like this was going to be the theme of January, or was that just a lucky hit?
That was the theme that we chose. We were like, we're looking for manuals. What is something that any person could pick up and read it and be able to do something?
Right.
I'm not saying large scale even. I think, even within your own community, you could be doing something. You don't have to run for Congress, or you don't have to run for mayor. You can be doing stuff behind the scenes. You know, I'm a behind the scenes person, and so it's like, you can do stuff like that, but like it's hard to know what to do. And a lot of what we want to do with the book club is arm people with the knowledge. I always say knowledge is power, but only if you do something with that knowledge.
Nice.
And so we're trying to do that with the book club, is give people this information. And part of our live streams is we always say you don't have to read the book to come. We're trying to give you all of the important information of the book, because we know not everybody is a reader. We would like everybody to be readers, but not everybody likes to read, and we get that.
Right.
But that's one of the beautiful things about what you guys are doing with the book club, is that, not everybody has, even if people are readers, not everybody has the time to read a full book every month. But by getting the book, by leafing through it, reading parts of it, and then listening to the conversation that you guys have that's more in depth, you almost get the full experience of reading an entire book. So it enables people to really engage with these themes and these topics in a deep way without the same amount of time investment that they would have to do on their own. Granted, it's better if people do read the full book, but they still also have that book to check back on later and have in their back pocket, and they at least have a good understanding of it, so that, if they do want to talk about it in some other conversation down the road, they can always check back to it. So I just want to say that's such a cool thing that you guys are doing with that, by kind of enabling people to engage with these topics, and also pulling them along month to month in a way that they wouldn't be able to do on their own.
Right. But also I think it's interesting because as someone who may not read as fast as everybody else, hello, dyslexia, I think it's great because I can decide, okay, well, I want to read Blueprint for a Revolution with you guys, but I may not be reading as fast. So I might come back and watch your episode about Blueprint for a Revolution after you're already on the next book, so that I can feel like I've caught up. But when I feel like I'm ready to check in with your episode, it's still there waiting for me. So even if I miss it live, I can still come back to it later. So I think that's really cool, because with most other like in-person book clubs, it's really, you have to read that like week's chapter, otherwise why are you at the club this week?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you say that too, because first of all, thank you guys, because that is something that we have tried to do, is make it accessible for as many people as we can. And so it makes me happy that you guys have like noticed that. And also we did recently have some people on Twitter like tweet like, hey, I just went back and read this book and watched the video. And so it's been cool to hear that is something that people do, because I think you're right. That is something unique about our book, this book club in particular, is that it is, I guess that's the blessing of being virtual.
Yeah.
Is that you can go back and look at it. But yeah, just to go back to like why we chose this book, we had already gone into this year wanting to mobilize, figure out like, how do you mobilize? Because it's the beginning of a new year. It's about to be the beginning of a new administration. Like, how do we, and usually I feel like when a new administration happens, people are like, okay, politics over, like checked out, don't have to think about anything else around me anymore. And so we were kind of thinking, okay, how do we mobilize? How do we get people to do that? And so we were looking for a manual. We loved This Is an Uprising, but it is kind of long and it does go into more historical stuff, which is super interesting, but it is kind of long. And so we were thinking, okay, what's like an even more accessible manual for nonviolent revolution? And I kind of just Googled it. I Googled like what books, because we had one picked out and Kateri started reading it and she was like, this is too technical. I don't think people are going to like this. So we were like, okay, cool. We'll just pick a new one. So I Googled like, what are the best, I think my exact search was the best manual for nonviolent revolution for normal people or something like that.
Nice.
And a list popped up of like 10 books. And so we went down the list. And as soon as we saw Blueprint for Revolution by Serja, I was like, this has got to be it.
Nice.
Sent it to Kateri immediately. And she was like, yep, this is it.
It was like so fortuitous with it being, that was our favorite chapter in This Is an Uprising. So.
Yeah. And this is like a common theme accidentally, is that we tend to pick books with yellow covers.
Oh, I was just noticing that on my bookshelf behind me here. I have this little section of yellow and black books, and it's
Bumblebee
The
section.
War on Normal People, Blueprint for Revolution. I've got Hitch 22 by Christopher Hitchens, Deep Work by Cal Newport, and
Are you just showing off your bookshelf right now, John?
I just noticed the same thing about yellow books. This section of, and especially nonfiction. The Happiness Project. What else have I got here? The Power of Habit. God is Not Great. My favorite book of all time. Yellow books. What is it? Yellow and black. It's like that is a good color for books. It stands out. For nonfiction, it's like you gravitate towards it, especially Blueprint for Revolution. I love the cover of this book. They absolutely nailed this cover. It draws you to it. Not just the image, but also the way that the text is laid out. And it draws you to it in a way where it's like, yeah, I want to read that and get involved in whatever this guy is talking about. It draws you in. So that's so funny. Yellow.
I mean, because I'm a person that, like, when Meghin sent it to me, I was like, I saw like this as a whole picture and didn't notice the flowers that he's holding.
Right.
Yeah.
And like, I'm the kind of person that I would be more like, ooh. And then I saw like, oh, it's flowers. That's dope. I want to do that.
Do you know, is this a Banksy image? I've always assumed it was Banksy, but I think I looked in the book and it was accrediting a different artist. I wonder who the artist is.
Yeah, that is actually a really cool thing that he does in the book is he has a whole section at the beginning where he is like, here's where all the illustrations are from.
Right.
I'm like, that's awesome. I've never seen that before.
Yeah,
Not
just making
the-
sure
at
the
least not
artists
front.
get their credits. That's
But also,
so
I mean,
good.
he has a whole chapter on art, doesn't he? On how, create that kind of creativity can really help to inspire people and bring people together. And, he talks about the graffiti that they started doing it was Belgrade, right? It was the city where they were, where they found it out with Plur. And, basically to give people activities that they can kind of join in the movement with, and also help spread the visual representation of that movement so more people find out about it. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's basically guerrilla marketing in a fun way.
Yes.
Getting people engaged and curious. It's funny because John and I were having this conversation last night about why Blueprint for a Revolution might be useful to be reading right now, even though we're not necessarily trying to start a full revolution. We're not like trying to overthrow an authoritarian dictator.
Well, the funny thing is we're not, but some people are.
Yeah, some people absolutely are.
Or at least they think they're trying to overthrow an authoritarian government, which is bizarre. It's weird how like you're reading this and it's like, are we on the opposite side of the people who are trying to overthrow the government right now? How then do we use what we're learning in this book? Because I think that there's still so much in this book that's applicable in a situation where you don't want to overthrow the government, like you're saying, but you want to find ways to work within it.
Right. But also just to get people engaged and get people to put eyes on whatever it is that you're trying to show or listen to whatever it is that you're trying to say, getting people to pay attention. Like, obviously, you have the Black Lives Matter protests that have been happening. You have people who are out here in the streets every day. And yes, protesting is obviously making a difference. It's obviously making some sort of an impact. People are seeing this happening, but it's also getting to the point where it's becoming easier and easier to drown out. And I think that Blueprint for a Revolution really shows great ways that you can get people re-engaged and even get new people engaged in the cause and invigorated and wanting to fight with you and fight for you without having to force them into it or use propaganda in a weird, like, manipulative way.
Yeah. It talks about, it's how to inspire people. And that's what's so cool about it. Because at first I'm like, how is this relevant for what we're trying to do here in this country? Because like you said, we're not really trying to overthrow the government, but it really is. It's about how to inspire people and get them motivated and get them engaged with your ideas. So it's just been so fun to read this right now at this time. So we were just like, how did you guys pick such a perfect book?
Yeah, I was actually telling Kateri earlier, I was like, we had like one negative comment on a tweet with one of the quotes, and it's something about like inciting people to like revolt and like mass incarceration. And I was kind of, I'm not responding, but I was thinking, I was like, the thing is, I don't admire what they did whatsoever. It was wrong.
Who is they specifically?
But they had all the people who stormed the Capitol. Like,
Gotcha.
I don't admire what they did.
Right.
Not admiring it. However, they had all this information. They had a connection and they had a cause, and then they did something about it. And like I said, that is not me admiring them.
Right.
That is like stating facts. And I told Kateri, I was like, why aren't we doing something like that?
Right.
Like, why aren't we doing something with all the information that we have? And, you know, as I'm reading this book, I'm like, they also, like, people on the other sides of all these issues also have access to this information. And so it's like, why aren't we also doing something about it? Is that, you know, and that's what I think about when I read this book is like, we don't have to overthrow anything, but there are definitely things in our country that just are not working. They're just not working. Not working for anybody. Doesn't matter which side you're on. If you think it's working for you, it's probably not. Like, it's just not. And, you know, it's kind of like the guy who, the whole thing about cottage cheese in the book. And they weren't trying to throw anybody. They were just trying to lower the price of their cottage cheese. They were just trying to feed their families. And that's definitely something that is a problem here. You know, inflation just goes up willy-nilly, like all the time, you know, and the thing you could afford yesterday, you can't afford today. One of the things
housing.
One of the things I was thinking about that is gas prices. How I've seen them fluctuate within like a summer where they were like $4 at the peak, and then like almost down to like $1.50 at some points. And I'm like, why? Like, why?
How did it go like that big of a gap? Yeah.
And like, we need gas to get around. Like, people have to go to work, buses have to run. Like, you know, like we have to, this is a necessity. This isn't something that's like a luxury for some people. This is something that, like, if they can't drive their car, they can't get to work, you know? And that's what it made me think of. It's like, we don't need to be overthrowing anything at the moment, but there are definitely aspects of our society that are not working. And we could definitely think about that.
So it's about inspiring people to get engaged and remind people that my favorite quote from Serja, I don't know if it's in the book or if he said it in his TED Talk. I think he said it in his TED Talk. He says, democracy is like love. You have to make it every day. Which is just so cool. So cool. And it's such a reminder that you don't have to wait for your government to get to a point where revolution is the only option. You have to be engaged every day, and you have to inspire more people to be engaged, because the more you have an engaged citizenry, people who feel enabled within the system, the more empowered within the system, the more you can create a world that is good for everyone. Because if you wait till you have to overthrow the government, then you still have to do that same thing on the other side. You know what I mean? So like, let's not get to that point. Let's get people engaged now. Let's get people inspired now. Let's teach them how, you know, they can be engaged. And then this is how you do it. That's what this blueprint really is. So the title's almost a little misleading. It is useful to think about for a revolution, but I would love, you guys are going to have Serja on your show, right? You're going to interview him? No, I thought that was already booked. I don't know where I saw that. I could have sworn I saw that you guys had already done that.
He's been very engaged with us. Like, he's been liking our tweets and like retweeting us.
I saw that.
So I feel like so I'm almost like, maybe we should reach out. But we almost get, I don't know how Kateri and I are such big like book nerds, and I see authors as celebrities. And not everybody does.
You get starstruck.
And so sometimes I get a little intimidated.
We have the same problem. Every day we're struggling with this. We're always trying to book new people for it. And we're always like, these people are way out of our league, but sometimes you just got to do it. And
reach out.
And what we found is like, you just do it and do it and do it. And maybe 90% either ignore you or reject you, whatever. But those 10% that you get make it so freaking worth it. We're sitting here with you guys only because we were like, they're a little far ahead of us. Like, you guys have way more followers than us, like more subscribers. Like, you've been doing this for a year. You're like really engaged in the community. And, you know, you reach out and you'd be surprised by what happens. I think he's really engaged with what you guys are doing. You absolutely have to make the interview happen. We're going to try to make it happen too if you guys don't. So
if we get him on before you do, we'll call you guys so you can come talk to him with us.
I would love that. But the reason I brought that up is I would love to ask him these questions because I'd love to hear his take on how he thinks about this book applying to situations like the United States, where maybe we're not yet at the point of revolution, but we can use the blueprint in this book for engaging more people in our government process. I'd love to hear his take on that. And maybe it's actually in the book. I haven't finished the book yet, so it's possible that he already addresses this.
It does kind of make me think of Bernie, who I supported, Pope Yang, which is a pretty common thread I've noticed. So the way he speaks and the concepts he speaks about seem really revolutionary to me, where he's not talking about any one person, but he's talking about the ruling elite.
Yes.
And thinking about how it's already, like John and Megan, you've already mentioned a couple of times about how we kind of, I think especially over the past, 30 to 50 years, maybe, our country has gotten in this habit of like, okay, this person was elected and here was that presidential election and now we can just go about our lives.
Yes.
And I had a kind of epiphany recently, I think it's kind of related, where, it's just so much the commonality. I feel like it doesn't really matter where you are in the US. Like, you more so talk to someone about politics and it's more like the response is more likely to be, oh, I don't really know about politics. So I don't really engage in politics. I don't care about politics. And I kind of had this thought because of the way that Sergio writes about, I mean, he's not using the word politics, but he is talking about politics,
right.
Like he's talking about how we govern.
Right.
And so I kind of had the thought of like, it's so interesting how like, yeah, we put so much money into like, we give so much money to like Hollywood and they make these films about like superheroes and they're all these things that are about power structures.
Right.
And it's this media content that like so many people care about so much. Like they're super fans of these stories that are about overthrowing people, that are about just like power structures and the good guys, they're saving the people and the people come together. Like we love that shit, but we don't love it when it actually like concerns us.
Right.
And I feel like his book bridges that gap really, really nicely, where it makes it feel like, and he talks about how like, and I think this is a quote we just posted, like a revolution could be fun. There's going to be not so fun parts.
Right.
Some people are probably going to get arrested, but a revolution could be fun. But maybe in our situation, people wouldn't really get arrested because like, we're not actually at the point where there's like
a full revolution,
the Gestapo or whatever.
Here's how we can
Unless
think
you
of it.
consider that ICE.
True. ICE does sometimes feel
National
like
Guard.
Yeah.
Hey.
No, for sure. Here's an interesting way we could think about revolution. Think about revolution as a revolution within ourselves and within our communities in terms of our engagement. Like let's create a revolution in terms of how people are being engaged with these topics and being engaged with creating their own power structures within their own communities and realizing that like, hey, we make those power structures. If we have an engaged citizenry, like people love to complain about it. Oh, the powerful elite taking over, whatever. Yeah, sure, that exists. But like it exists with our consent at the end of the day because we can do something about it. You know what I mean? So that's what this is. It's kind of a revolution within ourselves. I like to think of it that way. Cool. Well, it's been so fun talking about this book already with you guys. I know that I don't want to jump the shark completely because we're going to really dive into this in depth at the end of the month. And I really encourage people to hang around and check out that episode. You guys are going to live stream that February. Do you have a date yet?
January 30th, I think is
January 30th.
Is our plan. Yeah.
Awesome. And we'll throw a link to that in the description. I know we're running a little short on time here. I want to talk real quick though about you guys have an awesome initiative around buying books. Where do you guys buy your books? What's your thought process behind that? Are you big fans of Amazon?
I will be completely honest. Sometimes I do buy my books from Amazon because this one, for example, I'm a Prime member because like school stuff.
Right.
And so it'll come to me really fast. However, I look at it as, but I'm buying books about like UBI. And so I'm kind of sticking it to the man a little bit. Like I'm using you.
Yeah.
But we also encourage, and also it's expensive. Sometimes I'm like Bookshop, which is where we encourage people because it supports indie bookstores. And so if you have like some extra money or you can afford it, use Bookshop. That's what I use mostly. And that's what Kateri like almost exclusively uses. And so, and when we buy our books for our giveaways, we always go through Bookshop.
Perfect.
That's bookshop.org, I think. And we have the link in our Instagram and we have a link in our Twitter.
Awesome.
And in our pinned tweet. So we always try to go through Bookshop because we are trying to support small businesses, support indie bookstores. And then it does support us like a little bit too.
Of course.
You shop through our
Oh, nice.
And that's like, it's like one of the only like forms of like
kickback
support that we that we're doing.
No, but that's great because people, when they're engaged with what you're doing and they're inspired by what you're doing, they do want to also support you. So it's nice to know like what avenues they can do that through. That's so cool. Do you know how Bookshop works in terms of connecting you with indie? You mentioned it's not its own bookstore itself, right? It's connecting you with actual small businesses that are local bookshops.
in your area.
How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we don't know the like full ins and outs of it, but it is essentially, essentially like an Amazon type platform where, you know, it's just e-commerce and it's books. But I think if you're just like a regular user and you're not even using our links and you just go on and you find any book on there and buy it, some money goes towards an independent bookstore. You can also do a feature where you can like link to a specific bookstore. So, because really, you know, at the end of the day, the best option is to just go to a bookstore.
Right.
Like even
to
better
like
than
physically
bookshop.
go there. Yeah.
Right.
We will say, we will say like that is at the end of the day is the best thing, or your library.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but you know, being that we're an online book club, like, you know, that is kind of our community. And so
Right.
and
It's
it's
online
the one way we
accessible.
can actually,
Mhm.
So it's the one way we can actually, to like Meghin said, start to get some sort of financial thing going for us as we want to grow what we're doing. So so we tweet those links and we get something back. But yeah, essentially the basic concept for bookshop.org is like, I think catering to the people who are like, would go to Amazon. A lot of people who are like, I want to support bookstores, but you know, for various reasons, like it can be trickier, and Amazon is just so like, you know, they've got their whole thing nailed down. So Bookshop has done a pretty good job of like being able to, that they don't have like the shipping isn't the same where, you know, you can be a Prime member and get your book the next day.
Right.
But they have their books on a discount. Usually like pretty much every book they've discounted.
Mm.
And then you also just know that your purchase is helping an independent bookshop somewhere,
Yeah,
which is
small
not
business.
what's happening with Amazon.
Right.
No.
That's awesome.
Fantastic. I will say I'm actually using Overdrive to read Blueprint for a Revolution. I borrowed it from the New York Public Library via Overdrive.
What is Overdrive?
So Overdrive and Libby are two fantastic apps that allow you they're basically e-readers. So they not only allow you to read ebooks, but they also do audio book formats as well. But then you can connect to your local library and put your library card number in and your PIN and everything. And then you just check books out from the library via your phone, and then you can return books that you've borrowed or ebooks that you borrowed or audiobooks that you borrowed via your phone.
That is awesome.
So you don't have to be waiting until the library opens or anything. You could go at 3 a.m. and just like find a random book. We did that last night. We were talking about a book that we wanted to read, and I found the audiobook version of it from the library available right then. And I was like, oh, perfect. Because I do better with audiobooks because I can listen to an audiobook while I'm playing video games or working out. Or cleaning. So fuck yeah. So it's been one of the best ways for me to get a whole bunch of books and consume a whole bunch of books in quarantine while also being fun employed.
Right. Yeah. And it is important to remind people, you know, that library is such a great resource. People forget that. I don't know. It's kind of a lost art form. I remember going to the library as a kid, and I feel like libraries don't have the same kind of, you know, inclusion in our society anymore. People aren't embracing them in the way that they used to.
Right.
And, you know, especially in the middle of a pandemic like this, you know, people are short on cash, and buying books can be an expense that, you know, doesn't fit in the budget. And a library is a resource, man. You know, go to your library, find these books there and check them out, and support the library as well, because we need to maintain as much access to books as possible. So libraries are so important.
Absolutely. But also libraries are important because it's one of the few places that you can be for free and actually just spend time being there and not have to worry about buying something to exist there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Andrew Yang talks about how the post office could be, you know, expanded upon.
Yes.
I would add to that, libraries I think should be expanded upon.
Yeah,
They should be more funding to have more cultural centers.
More of a community hub, yeah.
Santa Barbara is quite affluent. I grew up though in Modesto, California, which is not nearly as affluent. It's like Central Valley, California. And so that's spending time at both libraries. It's so interesting because you can see how the people who work there care so much about what they do, and they both do so many amazing things. But the one in Santa Barbara, they're the one that are booking all of these people, they're doing all of these events. It's still, they're just able to do more.
They just have so much more
I'm guessing
funding.
because they just have the budget for it.
Yeah.
If libraries could be more like cultural centers, and, you know, you could bring more people in with different reasons, but at the same time, it's in this, this establishment that's full of books. That would be really cool.
Yeah.
That is awesome. One of our big themes here, as we study UBI, as we look out into the future, and we imagine a world where everybody gets an income floor, whatever we decide that amount is going to be, where they're not worried about being destitute. It enables people to start thinking about the new opportunities in their communities. How can they become more entrepreneurial? How can they create new avenues of value for their communities? The only way to enable people to do that, yes, you can give them money, but you also need to inspire them. You also need to give them creative support. And that's going to be the real challenge here. What is the future of purpose for humanity when you're no longer being tied to a dead-end job that you have to work, or 2 or 3 jobs that you have to work, slave away at in order to be able to just survive? What do people do with their time? Because we're not training people for that. And a big part of that problem is that we're not doing enough of this cultural kind of motivation and inspiration. So the work that you guys are doing is going to be so critical to that. The kind of ideas you talk about with turning libraries into cultural centers. These are the kinds of things that we can do on a 10, 20, 30-year time scale. So I love to hear these ideas that you guys are already kicking around. You're already doing the book club. I know that you have a ton of other great ideas for inspiring people to become more engaged in society, to become more educated, more interested in reading and learning. And we're just so inspired by what you guys are doing. And we can't wait to see how that continues, because that is the work that matters in the long run. And you guys are doing it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, really cool to hear that. And and I love that you guys are called Fun Time Program, and you're reading this book, which is literally about how to have a revolution and have fun with it. So.
This book is so on brand for us, because we're trying to do difficult topics in a fun way. And that's what this book is about. So we can't wait to talk to him.
Okay, we'll do it. We'll do it.
Yes.
We're done. Literally, I'm already drafting something in my head.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Get it done. Well, we've taken up enough of your time already. Where can people find you online? What are the best places to check out the Yang Gang Book Club, to get involved with the Yang Gang Book Club? Where can people be a part of the conversation? Yeah,
so we have Twitter, which is kind of our biggest platform at the moment. You can find us at Yang Gang Book Club, or YG Book Club, at YG Book Club. And in our pinned tweet, there was a Google form if you want to recommend any books, or if you want to sign up for our newsletter. And then we also are on Instagram. We're trying to kind of get into the bookstagram world over there. And that is at Yang Gang Book Club on Instagram.
Lovely.
And then we also have our YouTube channel, which is Yang Gang Book Club.
Right.
And that's where you'll find all of our interviews, or we do a happy hour. And then we also do our book talks, our book reports is what we call them. Our book reports.
I love it.
So yeah, that's where you can find us.
Do you have an email newsletter?
We do.
Yeah, we're working on a website. So if you're listening to this at some point in the future, we've done that, hopefully.
And that's yanggangbookclub.com?
It would be, I think so. We'll have to see. Yeah.
I haven't decided yet.
Yeah. But yeah, for now, you can, I don't even know if you have to have a Twitter account, but you can just get onto our Twitter page via the internet. And at
your local library.
And
the library.
Remember when you had to go to the library to use the internet?
You didn't have to, but it was an option, and it still is.
Because you could have, I didn't have a computer.
More fun.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, ladies, so much for taking the time to come and chat with us and share your inspiring story with our audience. We hope to inspire more people to become readers and join the club.
Absolutely. Meghin, Kateri, thank you so much for coming on. And we look forward to talking to you later this month again about Blueprint for a Revolution. And hopefully we'll have you on again. Yes. Please consider our door open at all times. Anytime you guys have something you want to talk about that's related to anything that's, anything that is a fun topic that our audience might be interested in hearing, or new updates with your projects, please consider us a resource and use our platform.
Thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely. It's been a fun time.
Yeah.
We like to hear that.
Love it. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Oh my God. Wait, we need like an intro tagline. Do you guys know Nerds for Yang, Tom from he's now Nerds for Humanity on YouTube. And he always, at the beginning of every show, he goes, "Hello, nerds." I cannot wait to do that with him. At some point, we're going to get him on the show. We need something like that.
I mean, yes, it's also a beautiful Animaniacs pun, so I appreciate what he's doing there.
Oh, so you probably know more about that than I. The cultural references go right over my head. I grew up without television, so Anyway, awesome. I like what you just did
I
there,
know,
though.
it's shocking.
When you were just like, I had a fun time.
Get into it at some point.
Sorry, say that again.
I said, now that's something we could get into at some point. I'd
Yes.
love to hear the story behind that one.
Oh my God. Well, let's schedule another interview. We're
Absolutely.
ready anytime. Awesome. Well, thank you guys again.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you guys.
Yeah. Super awesome. Thank you for having us. And we'll look out for you guys as well.
Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye.
Thank
All right.
you, you guys too.
Bye-bye.
See you later.
Thanks for checking out this clip from our show.
To watch more clips or full episodes, click on our profile below.
If you want to stay up to date on all of our new episodes and videos, click subscribe.
And if you have any ideas for future guests or topics that you would like to see us cover on the show,
Leave us a message in the comments or connect with us on any of our social media channels at Funtime Program.
or on our website at funtimeprogram.com.
We'll see you in the next one.
Bye-bye.